about indicators of sustainable mobility. Transport experts are often approached by the public with the statement, "Everything is wrong with transport in our region. I've seen how mobility is perfectly organized somewhere abroad." So we need numbers to have a convincing answer, to have the possibility to compare our region, to keep score in the game of sustainable mobility. So we need indicators. Indicators are by definition variables selected and defined to measure progress toward an objective. So they are a useful tool for cities and urban areas to identify the strengths and weaknesses of their mobility and to focus on areas for improvement. As cities and urban areas continue to work towards EU policy goals, it is important for this progress to be documented to ensure that such achievements become visible. But the problem we have as experts is that there are a lot of systematics and there is no international standard. So how to measure our sustainability? So there are examples. Some very useful sources, at least in Europe. For example, the Transport and Environmental Reporting Mechanism, shortly term, published since more than a decade by the European Environmental Agency. Each year one of the topics is further analyzed. For example, digitalization, urbanization, electrification, the first and last mile challenge, and similar. Another interesting or promising example are so-called SUMI indicators. So being aware that for the purposes of comparative analysis, harmonization is necessary, the European Commission has developed and published in 2020 a comprehensive set of practical and reliable indicators that support cities to perform a standardized evaluation of their mobility system and to measure improvements that result from new mobility practices or policies. So this guideline is titled the Harmonization Guidelines to Sustainable Urban Mobility Indicators, short SUME. There is a set of 19 core indicators with instructions how individual values are calculated. From the perspective of Green Path project, indicators quantifying affordability and accessibility of public transport and commuting travel time are the most interesting. In autumn 2024, European Union adopted regulation about Trans-European Transport Network, known as TEN-T regulation. Basically, this is a document that defines the future development of transport infrastructure in European Union, but with an objective to, and this is new actually, strengthening social, economic and territorial cohesion, sustainability, low emission mobility, efficiency and safety, ensuring the connectivity of all regions, including the outermost one. It introduces urban nodes, mandatory sustainable urban mobility plans, and mandatory data indicators. So we have a new set of indicators which must be collected by urban nodes, that is actually functional urban areas, listed in this regulation. So the revised TEN-T regulation requires a limited number of indicators covering the fields of sustainability, safety and accessibility to help urban nodes to monitor the implementation of SUMPs and provide feedback to cities and to monitor progress towards priorities identified in the TEN-T regulation, which includes promoting efficient and low noise zero emission transport and mobility, including greening urban fleet for passengers and freight, increasing the modal share of public transport and of active modes through measures to orientate it primarily the mobility of passengers in favor of these modes, promoting efficient low noise and low carbon urban freight delivery, increasing accessibility and connectivity between urban and rural areas, and access to smart, sustainable and affordable transport. So the final proposal of these indicators, urban mobility indicators, is structured in 7 groups: road crashes and injuries, modal share, noise pollution, air pollution, congestion, greenhouse gases emissions, and access to mobility services. The implementing act requires member states to submit data by end of 2027 with a remark if they want to apply for European financing. As an example, this slide shows as an example how indicators about modal share are defined with collection methodology, frequency of collection, and remarks. So, as a conclusion, indicators are important to describe and quantify the situation in our region, so what we actually have. After a long time, we have some standardized set of indicators in the European Union, but just measuring indicators, of course, is not enough. Mobility managers need to better understand the correlation between external circumstances over which we have no direct influence on regional level, like energy prices, global technology development, our actions, and the effects and results, the final outcome. So this correlation is actually the task and the mission of Project Green Path. Thank you.